There are times that you may want to create a function that takes a variable number of arguments. Here is an example. Let's define this function, multiply, that takes two parameters, x and y, and simply returns x times y. Now we can call this function like this. So far, so good. But what if you want to pass one or two more arguments here? That doesn't work because our multiply function takes only two parameters. To solve this problem, we need to replace these two parameters with a single parameter. We use a plural name here to indicate that this is a collection of arguments. And then we prefix it with an asterisk. This is the magical part. Let me show you what happens when you use an asterisk here. So temporarily, let's delete this line and simply print numbers. Let's see what we get here. So run the program. We can see all our arguments and they're packed in parentheses. What is this? Well, earlier you learned about lists. I briefly mentioned that you can use square brackets to create a list of objects like 2, 3, 4, 5. Now later in the course, we have a comprehensive section about lists. So don't worry about the details of lists and how they work. But what I want you to note here is that the only difference between this list and what we have here is in the notation. So we use square brackets to create lists and parentheses to create tuples. Some people call it tuples or tuples. So a tuple is similar to a list in that it's a collection of objects. The difference is that we cannot modify this collection. We cannot add a new object to this tuple. Once again, later in the course, we're going to have a comprehensive section about lists, tuples, and other data structures. What matters now is that these tuples, just like lists, are iterable. So we can iterate over them, which means we can use them in loops. Let me show you. So let's write for number in numbers, colon. Let's just print one number at a time. Actually, we don't need this line, so delete and run the program. So we iterate over this tuple, and in each iteration, we get one number and print it on the terminal. So now with a simple change, we can calculate the product of all these numbers. All we have to do is to define a variable like total. Initially, we set it to 1, and then in each iteration, we get total and multiply it by the current number. Or we can rewrite this statement using an augmented assignment operator. So total times equal number. Line 5 and 4 are exactly identical. So I'm going to use line 5 because it's shorter and cleaner. Delete. And finally, we'll return the total. Now, one of the issues I see often in beginners code is that they don't use this indentation properly. So they put the return statement here, and then they wonder why their function doesn't work properly. If you put the return statement here, it will be part of the for loop, so it will be executed in each iteration. In this case, after the first iteration, because of this return statement, will return from this multiply function. So the total will not be calculated properly. We need to put this at the same level of indentation as other statements in this function. So here we have our for statement. We loop over all the numbers, we calculate the total, and then finally return it. So with this implementation, we can get the result and print it on the terminal. Let's run the program, and you can see the product of these numbers is 120.